Welcome back to my channel. I'm Traben, and it's time once again to ask the question, can I solve the appeal? Let's talk about it. The Appeal is a book that was recommended to me by my wife when I was doing the previous Can I Solve video, Can I Solve How to Solve Your Own Murder? And it is a novel, I guess. It is a collection of, so far, largely internet posts like emails or message board posts or private messages to each other among these different characters that have been collected by these two investigators after some sort of suspicious death. As the cover promises, 1 murder, 15 suspects, can you uncover the truth? So this is a series of books. I believe there are 3 out at this point that are explicitly made to try to be solved, to try to crack it as you are going through. And so I thought it would be fun, once again, to give this a shot. The purpose of this video is not review. It is to see if I can figure out the mystery behind the book. I've put together a notebook, right? Can I Solve the Appeal, a novel? And so far, like I said, I haven't gotten to the inciting incident yet. So what I have is I have a page of names and ages. I also numbered the pages so that I could find their page quicker. There are a few characters that I didn't bother making a dedicated page to, but for most of the principal characters, I have a double page spread of the information that I'm collecting on them. Last time, I was really pressed for room on a couple of the characters. So, for example, I did not make a page for Poppy, a 2-year-old girl who is most likely not going to be the murderer. And I didn't make one for Wolf the dog. Similar reasons. But I will say, there's a fair bit more than 15 characters that are named and listed in this book. And so I think part of paring this down is going to be that hopefully at some point they give some sort of indication that like these are the 15 that we are really needing to focus in on. I'm mostly noting down prejudices, characterization, because we're going to get a lot of that indirectly, and also some things that are mysteries or things that people said that just seem off or are indicating some like larger problem, some other issue that is being held back for the moment. Just guessing randomly at what's going to be important or like what is really happening. But I am very excited for this book. It's so different and so cool. It's very easy to read because it's just these different correspondences. So it reads very quickly, but because I'm keeping the notebook, that is significantly slowing down my time through this book. I will be back in a few days with an update as I get further into the book. It's about 400 pages. So at the moment, I'm about, like an 1/8 of the way through. So we'll see if I can make more progress tonight. And then we will come back in a few days and talk about update on new information that I have gleaned since the beginning of this book. Update time on The Appeal, and I want to start off by saying that I think this is one of the more interesting constructions for a novel that I've read in a very long time. It's not very straightforward. It's basically just a conglomeration of messages between these characters, and you get the sense that you're missing out on a lot of information, but you know enough's going to be there for you to figure it out. It does feel overall disjointed, and I could see how someone would just on the face of it not enjoy the way that this is put together because it is so odd. It reminds me less of a novel and more of these kind of 5-minute mystery books you can pick up that just have these quick stories that have a mystery at the end, and you have to try to solve them. It's like a longer version of that with more of a narrative thrust to it. But I will say, especially early on, it was hard getting into it. It also reminded me of one of my favorite games from my childhood, which is Crack the Case, which works in a very similar way where you have a case to solve and you can ask yes or no questions, and you are trying to discover some secret based on limited information. You ask the right questions and you can get to the answer. This one, I would say, is a little bit farther away because it does require that you have a dialogue with the person running the game, ask questions, and learn things that aren't in the story itself. The 5-minute mysteries are a much better analog because you are trying to discover the one little detail in these stories that's significant and will give away why the criminal didn't get away with it, or what mistake did they make, or who was really the culprit, that kind of thing. On the flip side, like on the positives, I will say that it's very easy to read because you're just reading these quick transcripts between the characters. There's no chapter breaks, so it can be hard to put down because you're just like, oh, I can read one more little message and one more little message, and then you've read 50 pages. I am currently about 160 pages into the book. The murder has not happened yet. That's not a spoiler. It's mentioned on the back of the book that there's going to be a murder. That hasn't occurred yet, so I'm not even sure who to be looking out for as the potential murderer. But I will say that there's already a number of dubious things happening and definitely some crimes as well. So it's starting, the narrative is starting to form in the book, and it mostly centers around two of the characters. So the main plot is that this young girl, Poppy, gets diagnosed with cancer, and they're trying to find an experimental treatment from America to bring over and save her life. They're having to fundraise, which in the UK is apparently called an appeal, in order to make that money and get the experimental drugs. We've got Martin Haywood, who is the grandfather of the sick child, and he's kind of taken it on himself to get the fundraiser going and to make sure that they're doing everything they can to make this money. We have come to find out that he and other members of his family, who seem very well off, they seem very rich and well respected, well regarded in the community. They own property and they own, I think, the theater house and things like that. He is taking some of the money that they're raising, he's funneling it into restoring some of his properties, because if he doesn't, then they're going to take him to court and he can't have that happen. He's lying to the people who are helping him fundraise, saying that they were scammed by this guy and that's the reason why the money's missing, when really that's not what happened at all. That's not why they're short of money. It's because he's basically embezzling it. The main person that I've been focusing on and kind of paying the most attention to is Samantha Greenwood. Her and her husband Kel are new to town, and they just got involved with the theater as a thing to get into the community, and she works as a nurse alongside some of the other characters, but there's something about her past that is, I feel, deeply important to the plot because they keep on bringing it up. So something happened to make her leave Bangui in Africa, and whatever that something is really important, and I haven't quite figured it out yet. Now, she is trying very hard to get information about this supposed drug they're bringing in from the States, because she suspects that the person that they're going to help get the medicine is actually lying and is trying to defraud this family of their money. And she's just going to take their money and use regular chemo and say it was this miracle drug. And if it didn't work, oh well. They clearly have a past. Samantha and this doctor whose name is Tish. They clearly have a past. Tish knows about why Samantha was forced out of Bangui. And Samantha has done a number of things to try to figure out where the money is going and what this miracle drug is. The doctor is very reluctant to talk about their sources, which just makes her seem more suspicious. There's a point where the doctor, Tish, is talking to her brother about their parents' well-being. Their parents are in a nursing home, I think, and there's complications with that are going to cause a shakeup in the family and maybe end up costing them more money. And right after that email exchange, it goes straight into her pressuring the family again to make sure that they have the money so that they can import this drug, supposedly. Sam and Tish, why did she really leave Africa? And why is she trying so hard to find out the source of this drug? Is it just an altruistic thing where she's looking out for this family? Is it revenge on Tish for something that happened in their past? Or is there some other reason? I read an excerpt where Samantha was looking for someone named Helen Grace, who we've never heard of before, contacting a genealogist about her. And that also seems very significant. It seems like it might have some tie-in as to why she is so aggressively researching and pressuring to find where this drug is coming from. She's doing some very nefarious things in order to get at the truth here, and it seems a little sinister. It seems a little questionable, but it could just as easily be that she has the best of intentions and is just being stopped from finding out the truth by people who don't want the truth to come to light. A character that I never thought to put in my, sheet of all these characters, which is the flippin' dog. His name is Wolf. But in a recent chapter, he had to go to the vet because he had an obstruction in his stomach. And now it's like, what did Wolf eat? Because almost certainly that's going to be important. Major thing I'm still tussling with is this is just a list of the characters that are involved in the theater, in the play. And there are more characters beyond that, but just on this page, I have over 30 characters. It says on the cover, on murder, 15 suspects. I certainly hope there's a point where the suspect pool is more explicitly stated, and I also hope, if they're going to do that, because this could be a very sneaky thing, if they're going to say, okay, here are our 15 suspects, then the murderer needs to be in that 15. I really don't like when they, put out, okay, here are the ones that you need to pay attention to, and the big twist or the big rug pull is, oh, but it was really Wolf the dog. You didn't see that coming because no one suspected him. Greetings, everyone. I called you here to the accusing parlor because there has been a murder. Or more accurately, there's always been a murder, and we just now know who actually died. And I will say, this book took its sweet time. We do not learn the identity of the murdered person until page 263 of this book. There is one detail from right before the reveal of who is killed that I feel is particularly important, even though it does not at that moment seem like it is. Let me get to it. So we've got the embezzling thread that I mentioned last time. He's now been accused of sexual assault, either committing sexual assault or protecting someone who committed sexual assault. These accusations came from Arnie, who is Samantha and Kel's friend that they know from Africa. He also took $112,000 of the money that was raised and gave it to this very suspicious woman named Lydia Drake, who claimed that she was going to invest it and then he'd get his money back really quickly. Samantha is also going through it with Kel because he cheated on her with Claudia, who I thought would not be an important character. So there's this spousal drama as well with Claudia assaulting Samantha at her work at the hospital. There's just a lot going on. But I think the central thing, and the thing that's not played up as much as these other points, is that Samantha is looking for someone named Helen Grace. There's only one Helen in the entire book, and that is Martin's wife. This is the Helen Grace that Samantha is looking for, but why she's looking for her is still kind of a mystery. I tried to do some back of the envelope math and see if Samantha could be related to Helen in some way, but it doesn't quite seem to work out. Very curious how that is going to resolve. It seems like this is something, though, that is not as heavily emphasized and requires a lot more of reading between the lines to figure out. And so I feel like it's maybe somewhere where I should focus more of my attention moving forward. Why is the Hayward family, like Martin and Helen and like this core family that is trying to do the appeal, why are they working with Tish? Because she seems to actively dislike them and is very dismissive of them as like these rich idiots who refuse to actually put a stake in what they're trying to raise money for. There seems to be some reason why they are still in business with each other. There's something about the relationship there that's significant. Now that I know who was murdered, I am better able to maybe figure out the reasons behind it. There are a handful of suspects, and again, due to the nature of the things going on with Samantha in particular, I feel like I've got a good direction on where I want to focus my attention. We've only got about a little over 100 pages left to go, so I'm going to go ahead and get to the point where maybe we're really close to revealing the answer, and then I'll record one more video and we'll do a wrap up at the end. So until then, stay sharp, detectives. See you later. I didn't get too terribly much farther before I was met with this page that seems to suggest that I now have to answer questions and solve the case, and I feel woefully unprepared to do so. The first question is, who killed Samantha Greenwood? So I think it's either Martin or Helen that killed her. There was this line about who has the most to lose, and I think he has the most to lose in being exposed as both a fraud, the fraud that he's committing for the charity, and also there's something with this kid, something with this child. His wife had a child that she claimed died, and Sam was yelling. She had this big breakdown where she said that that's not what happened. In the hours before her death, she told 3 people 3 things. Who and what? I don't know. I know she said something to Isabel out in the parking lot, but I have no idea what it could be about. She like grabbed her and whispered something in her ear. I don't know what it could have been. I think she talked to Sarah Jane beforehand. Again, I have no idea what she said. So I'm in the weeds on that one. Who knew it was going to happen? So who knew that she was going to die? I have to imagine okay, if we're going off of Martin as the killer, he's had these contacts with his son and I believe his son-in-law, consistently talking about, like, don't send a message across, like, don't send a message, talk to me in person. So I think maybe the three of them knew. It's possible that Isabel also knew because her behavior is very different after the fact. So I wonder if that plays into it, if she knew something was going to happen based on what was said. Who knew about it before the body was discovered? I think Isabel knew about it before the body was discovered. I think I have a suspicion that she found it earlier than she reported it, because she says when she calls the cops, she says it's been here all day. She's been here all day. And how could she possibly know that unless she had seen it earlier? I don't know what the purpose of delaying it would have been, other than to get through the play before it's revealed. I'm not sure what her motivation there would have been. And the last question is, who is erroneously imprisoned and why? And I think that Isabel is imprisoned for this because it would seem suspicious that she called. It's either going to be her or it's going to be Kel because of the marital dispute. He's cheating on her with another woman and he's off with her in like a tryst. So I'm imagining it's one of the two of them. Now, there are other riddles in here. It's 3 people who are not who they say they are, 3 masquerading as others, and 1 doesn't exist at all. My suspicion for the one who doesn't exist at all is Jackie. Her texts always seem like they are like she's been hacked. Like all of her text messages end with these like really silly links to like sex websites or like get rich quick schemes, and she's always asking for money. She's always doing these things that seem really out of left field, and she seems like a completely inconsequential character other than like having that happen. 3 characters masquerading as others is pretty easy as well. So we know for sure, I'm pretty confident that Sam masqueraded as Izzy for a while. We also know that she was masquerading as the millionaire who was going to pay off the loan, who was going to pay off the appeal. There's also someone who impersonated this girl named Lydia, who I don't think existed. We know it was sent from the Grange, a place that the Haywards own, and so the suspicion there is once again that it's Sam, but I'm not sure it is. This is the person who was able to scam $112,000 from the family, and I'm curious who that could have possibly been. 3 people who are not who they say they are is probably the trickiest of these to figure out, because it's not masquerading as someone else. It is they are claiming to be one person and they're not that person. So my immediate thought goes to Arnie in particular, because there's just something odd about his behavior toward the family and his behavior toward Poppy. He seems very protective of her, clearly knows more about the family than he should, being just a random friend of friends. Like, he's a friend of a friend and he knows all this backstory about them. It seems really odd. So I don't think he is who he says he is. I don't think his background is what he claims it to be. Well, I'm not sure who else I could really point to that I would have reason to believe are not who they claim to be. There's 2 people who are not who they say they are, and I have no idea what that could be. But I think I've got the main mystery down. I think it does have something to do with this family, with this lost child, and I think that the initial arrest is going to be for Isabel. Something's going to come to light that exonerates her, and we're going to turn our attention toward this family instead. So, I'm going to read a little bit further into the book. We'll see how it goes. I might jump on for another update real quick before they do like the final reveal. I'm not sure how the book's going to progress from here because we've still got like over 100 pages. So I finished up the appeal this morning. I had like 10 pages left, but I just could not stay up last night to finish. And I will say I figured it out to middling success, much like the last time I tried this experiment. I followed the right path. Of all the conflicts they were throwing at you, I knew the right one to kind of hone in on as like, this is significant and this is the important one. But I got the details wrong, just like I did on the last one. The second to last theory that the detectives suggest is the one that I was proposing. So I also feel like I was really close because it was almost at the right point. It was the farthest along without being the absolute correct answer. And considering that this has significantly more characters, is a bit longer than the last book I read, and is more difficult to parse because of the medium. It is an epistolary novel, and so having only the different correspondence between the characters to go off of took some getting used to. I'm happy with how this turned out. I'm glad that I was able to mostly figure out what was going on. Going back to the questions posed by the detective before they start kind of breaking everything down, definitely got, I would say, 2 or 3 out of the 5 correct. There's some wiggle room because, again, there's so many characters. I would say, oh, I think it's like this person and this person, or it was this person and this person, and one of those would be right and another I would miss. So because you have such a large cast of characters, it's possible to get, I feel, partial credit on these questions. I feel like I would have been just slightly off from the true, correct, perfect answer. There were some details I picked up on and then later dismissed for one reason or another, or didn't focus in on as much as I should have. Beyond the murder itself, there are a number of other crimes and deceptions and backstories all intertwining with one another, which I feel is a testament to the writer's depth. Like, they are able to keep all these balls up in the air and keep you guessing and have all these characters interact and intertwine with their backstories and the things that are currently going on, and creating a number of scenarios for potential points of conflict around Samantha in particular. That media was one of the reasons why it was so difficult to figure anything out and to put together a reasonable idea of what was going on, because you're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents, some of which mean nothing, some of which are holding very important clues. I did not see one incredibly important point, which I think if I had picked up on that idea, I might have been able to follow that and figure out more of the actual backstory that was going on. If you are a very careful reader, all the evidence is there for you to figure out everything that's going on if you are paying attention. And I think, too, like me, even if you don't figure out everything, I think you'll feel satisfied in what you do figure out and what you do pick up on, because there are so many mysteries within this book. There are so many plots and deceptions and things going on that if you pick up on it quickly, or you pick up on it before the detectives do even, that can be a lot of fun. And that is a good feeling that, like, oh, I figured out something before these detectives did. A really cool whodunit, a really cool idea. I don't know if I'm going to jump back into another one anytime soon, but the next time I do, if people like this video and it is, doing well, then I'll probably have another one where I look at the Twyford files or whatever their next book is and take a look at it. It's just not something I'm wanting to jump in right away, because making so many notes and going through and sifting through the information is a very slow process. Let me know down in the comments below if you'd like me to take a look at another one of these whodunit mysteries and try to solve it as I go along. Like, subscribe, Apparently, right now, the algorithm likes when people thumbs up that are subscribed to the channel. So that is like the #1 thing you can do to help us grow this channel, this corner of our BookTube community. I hope your reading journey is going well, as always. And until the next one, take care, sleuths.